You're listening to the Midnight Movie Snack Podcast. First of all, thank you both for joining us for this episode. As we mentioned a few moments ago, Silver Bullet is a movie that is near and dear to those of us on this side of the podcast. We've done a number of episodes in the past about the movie, about what it means to us, and so here we are at the 40th anniversary, and we're very excited to have you both to talk about it. Um, so I'm going to just jump right in. We've put together some questions, and the guys here, they'll chime in. They've got some questions as well. But I wanted to start with you, Dan, because I know that this was your first feature film. You were a relatively new director. You had done some assistant director work previously. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved with Silver Bullet. Like what got
Yeah,
you the job, and what was it like meeting Dino?
yeah. This was literally my first directing job. I had gone to film school and gotten a degree, and knew I wanted to direct. But my entry into the business was through becoming an assistant director through the assistant director's training program. So I'd worked a couple of years. Actually, no, I'd worked a couple of years as a trainee AD and then as a second AD, and then rather than transition to first AD, which I had no interest in doing. I went back to film school, made a short film that won my thesis film, and it won a bunch of uh, festival awards. And I got an agent through that who at the time was known for finding young talent. So Dino called him. I mean, he was looking for somebody who was good but cheap, being the operative word. And so
That sounds
they,
familiar.
yeah,
Yeah.
so they said, well, why don't you meet Dan? So I got on a plane with my 35 millimeter two reel case of film, and I flew to New York, and I went to the Gulf and Western building, which I think is now the Trump building, and met with that was Dino's office in New York, and Frank Mancuso was president of Paramount at that time, and I showed my film, and it's like it couldn't have been less like what you would think for a horror movie. It was a dramatic comedy about a 60s activist, and but they liked it, and I interviewed with them, and I got the job, which was kind of amazing. And right away, I got put with Stephen King, and Dino was in business with Stephen. You guys probably know this better than I, some of the details. I mean, he'd already made Firestarter and Cat's Eye, and
Right.
just
I was
thought,
there when Cat's Eye was being filmed.
there you go.
I was
And
doing Manhunter at the time.
yeah, that was the Michael Mann one, is that right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And and Dino regarded Steven rightly as a kind of cash cow and just wanted to make as many films with him as he could. And Steven wanted to oblige, but he didn't know what to suggest. And Dino saw this calendar he had done called Cycle of the Werewolf and said, let's do a movie about that, and it's like, that's just a calendar, Dino. He says, no, no, you write a script. And and so that accounts for why there's a lot of anomalies, which are kind of amusing, like it's like in the calendar, werewolves come out in the full moon, right? So there's a one full moon a month. You go January, February, but this one's not going to be that way. So we had some of the funnier lines in the movie where Corey Haim at one point, they said, "What do you mean a werewolf? He's coming out at different phases of the moon." He said, well, maybe it's just when the moon gets fuller, the guy gets wolfier. So that's how we explained all that, and. And I mean, I'm expanding from your question, but I got hired. It was my first job. They wanted, I had a pretty good interview, and I met with Stephen King, and he was just purely a gentleman. He wasn't really.
That's great.
I don't think he was like invested in the film particularly. He thought it's a calendar for God's sakes, but
Right.
he was always a good guy. So that's how it started.
Yeah, so
That's great.
following off on that though with Stephen King. So I know that he got screenplay credit. He wrote the screenplay for it. Was he involved beyond that? Like, did he visit the set? Did he participate in any way during production?
I think he may have come to North Carolina once or twice, but he was very hands-off. He was very respectful of me. I
Mhm.
mean, I don't know if he was just lazy or he trusted me, but I mean, he didn't seem that into, and he was also totally cooperative. I had a very specific take on this material, and I sold it when I was pitching what I thought the movie was about and how I thought it really worked. And King loved it. He said, "Great, go do it." And he was cooperative. Anything I'd ask, he'd do. I do remember one scene. I in rehearsal I improvised, and I'm really sorry Robin couldn't join us because she was part of this improv. But we
Yeah, she
did.
says to say hello, by the way. We're
Oh God,
very good friends.
I'm so glad you've stayed in touch with her. She's so
Oh,
great.
yeah,
Yeah,
she's delightful. We go way back to Actors Theater Louisville and
even
we met a
before.
new play festival. And
So you probably knew Kent Broadhurst too
oh,
before he
very
was.
well. Kent
Yeah,
was in the play I was in called Food from Trash. I
yeah.
played a garbage man called Sudden Pisanger. And it was written by a poet from Nebraska. It was great. It was like an environmental thing. And Kent played, he played an Indian, American
Perfect.
Indian, and
Yeah.
his name was Running Joke.
Well, yeah, so the Louisville contingent was there, but uh, just to finish off on Stephen, so I did this rehearsal. One of the few rehearsals I did was with uh, Gary Busey, Robin, and Corey Haim, and it was the
Uh-huh.
scene where Uncle Red gets introduced and where he's kind of drunk and he's playing cards with Corey, Marty, and the script was very minimal. The script was what was in the original script was you know, where he starts to swear playing cards and he's drunk and Robin's character, Nan, just tells Marty to get upstairs and just is disappointed in Uncle Red, and that's the scene. But I really wanted to drill down on that, and I improvised with them a whole sequence, which is one of my favorite scenes in the movie because I really thought it was a chance to state the themes of the movie, which to me the movie was all about wounds, wounded characters. You had this image of this primary wound with this boy in a wheelchair, this devastating, impairment, and how characters worked, dealt with their wound. Could they accept it and move on, or did they have to flush it? Did they have to deny it? And so it really mapped out well because, the monster was, a minister who I posited he couldn't deal with imperfections. He couldn't deal with his sexual impulse. He couldn't deal with anything. And he just squashed that wound down, that he wasn't spiritually perfect, and then he became a monster, metaphorically. And and Marty was the one who never felt sorry for himself except one interesting instance, and therefore was empowered, and also had a sense of who was wounded and who could have been the werewolf.
Mhm.
And Uncle Red was a wounded character who also wasn't facing his wound, was alcoholic. So that I wanted to really state the themes, which that improv did, where, he's just slobbering all over himself, but he's charming and he's winning. And the mom, Nan, was just scared to death that Marty wasn't going to be able to deal with his impairment. And so how do you deal with someone with wounds? And they were each two necessary but contradictory role models for the boy. And they end in this stalemate. So we improvised this scene and I just sent it to Steven. Just great, use it. I like
Oh,
it.
that's
I'll get
great.
credit for
Robin,
it.
Robin will be so happy to hear you say that. And I asked her if she wanted to be on with us, and she declined. Not because
Oh,
she didn't want to be a part of it, but she was just a little reluctant with the technology and everything like that. And
Oh,
I can see now that she might have been
oh.
challenged by this, but she is such a sweetheart. And she
Well,
lost
she's
her.
also became a therapist, right? Didn't she become a
No,
therapist?
I don't know about that. I don't
Or
believe
maybe
so.
not.
But she
Yeah.
lost her home in the Palisades fire.
Oh
oh,
God.
Yeah, and
That's so
it was
tragic.
so
Yeah.
tragic. And
Yeah. Oh boy.
she's such a good soul and has a
Yeah.
big heart. And
Yeah. Yeah.
um, anyway, she'll be delighted. She is going to listen to this, so I
Oh,
know
good.
she'll be very, very happy to know
Well,
that you
Robin,
think that that was a great scene.
yeah,
And the
Robin,
improv did it.
yeah, well, she was great. I mean, it was like that's what
Yeah.
I really needed. I needed these two strong characters because it gave them a history, and it gave, and it's, and that's that one line came up was like, she finally says in that scene, which we improved, it's like, she's trying to appeal to Uncle Red, not to give an example of just being someone who just screws everything up and gets drunk and gives up. And she says, "Look," she tries to be heartful, and she says, "Look, he's got enough strikes against him. I don't want him to just give up." And and Carrie says, "He's not going to give up." And then she just said, "Well, he doesn't need you showing him how to do it." And she just
Oh,
walks out on him.
nice.
Great.
And it's like, and that's just wow. That's the scene. And Busey did this great moment at the end of it. Another wonderful night of Sister Nan's. And you just see right away that's the beginning. And the beautiful thing is, just subtextually, what happens in the course of the movie is those two wind up reconciling. It's like they both faced their demons and they both articulated their truth, and Marty kind of brought them together. And at the end, he's kind of cleaned up his act, and she's off to, I mean, what parents would leave their kids alone on a full moon night with this werewolf running around? But anyway, she's off to do it. And it was lovely. It was a whole nice subtext. And I mean, I could go on, which I won't right now, but I think the appeal of the movie is it really audiences might not be conscious of this is the story, but it's also Janie having to come to terms with her wound, having this brother that takes all the
Yes.
attention. And it's like all these characters are circling around an issue they hate and they don't want to deal with.
And
Marty's
Megan was so great.
oh my God.
She's such a
I worked
wonderful
recently.
actress.
Yeah, I got to work with her again recently, a couple of years ago. She was great.
Yeah.
So that was nice. I'll just finish this off just because I want to tie it together. In thinking about the script, the one moment Marty feels sorry for himself is the one moment he almost gets killed. It's the first scene we did, and it saved my job with Dino because after the first week he wasn't sure he wanted to see the dailies and watch a scene cut together. But as Marty is watching the kids playing baseball, and he's watching the kids, and I did a shot of Marty, and then his POV was just of legs running. These boys are just running after a ball, and it's just the lower half of they're running to passing off to
Oh,
another boy
yeah.
running,
I mean,
and you see him being kind of depressed, and he doesn't notice that Everett McGill, the Reverend's car, is right behind him,
yeah.
and he gets into his self pity, his understandable. I don't mean that as judgment, but feeling bad, and he's not mindful, and so he goes on this bridge, and that's when the Reverend almost kills him. So it's like every other time he's cheerful. He says, "Well, yeah, let's do whatever. I'm not stuck. I can climb trees. I can do anything." But the one moment he dips into, cursing his fate, he's he's impaired. He's
Mhm.
handicapped. So anyway,
Yeah,
That's
that's a
great.
great point. I've
yeah,
never really realized that.
yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I I so appreciate you going into that because I think you hit on something. You said something a moment ago that I think is true that audiences may not be able to articulate those
right.
things, but they certainly pick up on them. And I think for me, and I'm sure that the rest of the guys would agree, it's those things that elevate this movie above all of the other werewolf movies that came out during the 80s. I mean, there were some great ones, but I've often felt about Silver Bullet that if you took away the werewolf, I think you would still have a compelling movie. You would have a compelling story for the reason that these characters, they're all dealing with wounds
Yeah,
and just the working together and kind of bouncing off of each other. It really does. It takes something that could have easily been just, oh, it's a werewolf movie, it's a B movie, it's something to get the teenagers to come in and get scared. But there's just something very sweet and profound and deep in those characters and in the performances. And watching it again not too long ago, it just reminded me that, yeah, this is just some really beautiful moments. And that scene is one that I always look forward to watching because it's just there's so much going on with the
mhm.
characters and seeing them play off of each other.
Yeah.
So
Thanks. I
yeah,
appreciate that.
it's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was great. Now, Dan, that's I've never heard you talk about the film like this, and I'm it's compelling, and you made it so, and I I truly appreciate your artistic vision for this
No.
film that could have just been written off as just another kind of werewolf movie. It was so much more than that. And
Mhm.
Everett, who I saw on Broadway in Equus with Anthony Hopkins, he was playing the lead horse in that
Yeah.
play, and I was delighted to meet him because that was the second Broadway show I'd ever seen in my life. And I was going to graduate school at Smith at the time because they just started accepting men into the graduate program. And the there was a Smithy there who took me to my two first Broadway shows. I couldn't afford it at the time, and we were kind of going out. And she took me to Pippin in the afternoon, and we went to Equus in the evening. And they were just, two of the most wonderful Broadway plays in that era. But I'd like to say this about, with Dan, this movie obviously was before all this AI stuff and all the stuff you could do in the background with special effects and everything. There were some special effects, but a lot of this was done with just effects, not necessarily special effects. Just except for when we were in that in the big stage when we closed sealed the doors and lifted the steam up and the swamp, and that was a wonderful effect, and it had nothing to do with AI or anything.
No, that was totally practical, and we had to delay shooting because I kept hearing, well, it'll work, and I didn't know quite how. I knew it was going to be dry ice, and that they were going to build up, barriers. But when
Yeah,
we got there, I don't know if you remember this, Bill, but we got there
I
and it was
do.
like about 12 inches high. And I
That's
said,
right.
guys, this isn't going to, I have to have people disappear going down below it. And we were
Right.
delayed several hours, and we finally did it. And there was real health concerns because, several of the actors had to disappear, and you can't survive if you stay under in
That's
that.
right. Well,
You know,
what happened to the stunt guy? Do you remember that, right?
what, he had a fainting spell? Is that kind of what
Well,
happened?
he was all rigged up
Yeah.
with that coil that and a
Right.
vest, and he had a
With
back
the face that
with a
was torn
back
off.
brace. Yeah,
Yeah.
and at some point they ejected him out of that fog or dry
Yeah.
ice fog, and he slams into a tree.
Right.
Well,
Right.
he
Right.
was unconscious when
Jesus.
he was
We had to
brought
go
out.
down and bring him up. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they snapped him out, and he was like this,
Yeah.
when he hit that tree.
Yeah.
And I believe he had to go to the emergency room to get
Wow.
checked
Wow.
out. I
Wow.
kind of remember that. I remember him very well. He was a wonderful stunt man, and other lesser stunt men would have stopped the take.
Well,
But
you know what you're reminding of it. And yes, that was very vivid. I was terrified about Lawrence Tierney, an old
oh God,
guy, having to disappear under this because, as you recall, and that was kind of a funny thing too. I mean, there was some different scenario written about how he was going to get killed by the bat, the peacemaker, right? And
Mhm.
I just came up with this idea of it just seemed like almost a comic book to me, but I just said, let's just do it this way. He'll go under and an arm will hit, and then you'll hear a noise, and then he'll come up with the broken bat and just continue beating the shit out of him. So he had to
that's his favorite part, beating the shit
yeah.
out of people.
But he had to stay under for a while. I mean, you have to see the real guy go under because it was like one shot. He
Yeah,
goes under, you hear stuff, a hand
one
comes out.
shot.
Yeah, you couldn't, there was no cut. And I mean, we did it safely, but I was always worried about that because,
Yeah,
yeah. So,
rightfully so.
yeah. I just want to say something while I'm thinking about it. Bill, you did a great job on that movie. And one of my favorite moments is and one of my favorite sequences is when Megan follows, who is so great, when she finally, and that whole storyline is another thing about the movie is about many things, about wounds, but it's also kind of a love story and a family story and coming together and,
Hmm.
she finally believes her brother and she's gonna go try to, find evidence that maybe this crazy story that it's the minister who did it. is really the werewolf, and she's going around the town collecting bottles, but really trying to see who has a left eye that's covered up because he says this rocket impaled the werewolf's eye. And when she comes into the barber shop with you, that's one of my favorite moments because you are such a good hard ass throughout the whole movie, and it's just like this one eye, and you're just looking at her. It's a great reveal, and but I wanted to say one of the things that really amuses me to this day about this film is Stephen King writes for New England, right? And there's supposed to be in Maine or something. And not that we ever said it was in Maine, but a lot of the dialogue is geared that. And we had such an eclectic group of characters. We had a lot of people who were obviously cast locally in Wilmington and,
That's right.
and Charlotte. And we had a lot of guys who were great, who had this great hard Southern accent. And then I did all this casting up in New York too. Bill, you came in and nailed it, but it was just so funny. I mean, you're a New Yorker or whatever, to come in with it. And it's like, we put all these people together who are so different. It's like, yeah, this is the homogenous community here.
Parker Bill.
It was pretty
I
funny.
remember that
Yeah.
line. They go, I think he's in those balls.
Yeah, right.
Andy."
You're gonna pee your pants? Yeah, right.
To make
That was a
lemonade.
local hire, right?
Yeah, right.
He was a local
Yeah. Oh,
hire,
yeah.
and we would hang out
Yeah.
at the clam shack.
Totally.
The
Totally.
clam shop or whatever that was for
Totally.
a lot of dinners together. I have a great picture of most of the cast at that clam shack, and we had such a good time in Wilmington as an ensemble.
It was fun. It was really fun.
It was a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
And
Yeah.
I'll say, and Bill, I'd be curious of what you'd add to this. So it's my first picture, right? It's my first job as a director. And Dino gives me, it's okay. It's going to be fine. He says, I give you a experienced cameraman. And he gives me a great cameraman who doesn't speak English. He just speaks Italian, and Armando Nanuzzi. And I looked up his credits, and he had worked for Visconti, one of the great Italian neorealists. And I thought, oh, okay, if he's good enough for Visconti, he's good enough for me. But I couldn't communicate. I mean, we had to use broken French to try to talk. I mean, fortunately, his son was the operator, and he spoke English. But there's a point I wanted to make. It'll come back to me. But anyway, that was part of the story.
Well, that's Michael Mann's cinematographer, Spinote.
Yeah.
He had an all-Italian crew
Right.
on Manhunter, and they were very upset with Michael because he used live ammunition on one shot and he didn't tell anybody about it, and the whole Italian crew was threatening to go back to Italy.
Wow.
I'll tell you, that was pretty wild. But
Wow.
that's another incredibly spooky movie, the Manhunter.
Yeah.
I think that's the best rendition of Red Dragon, bar none.
Yeah. Oh,
Brian
yeah.
was terrifying.
Bill, I just remembered what I wanted to ask you about because this was my experience. I think the viewers might be interested in this too. So it was my first job, and I mentioned, and I got an Italian speaking cameraman, but I also, we were casting the movie, and at that time, I really thought, okay, Uncle Red is so key because you got to love him. You just got to think this guy is so great, and he's got to be wild. And I just said, it's got to be Gary Busey. Now, Gary Busey at the time couldn't get arrested because he'd been having big publicized drug problems.
Yeah.
He was trying to get off drugs. He ballooned up to look how great he looked as a big overweight, guy who's just dissolute. And but he was grateful for the job, and he came, and I was now directing my first job. I'm directing two kids in the lead. A 12-year-old, Corey Haim, and Megan Fowler was 14. And Gary Busey was by far the biggest kid and the most work for me to kind of corral. I mean, it's like after every take, how was it? How was that? And I'm trying to deal with the kids and all that. He was a wild man. And, whatever, for better or worse, I think he modeled some not great behavior for young Corey. But that was, yeah. I was wondering, did you have any dealings with him at all or not?
No, not much. I ran into him at a Norby Walters event, Oscar night thing, and I said, I came up to him and I said, "Hey, how you doing, Gary?" And he turns around and he goes, "What the fuck?" And his wife goes, "Hey, this is Bill. This is Bill." And it's okay, it's all right. I kind of walked away because I didn't know whether he didn't like me or whether he was drunk and he was just talking off his
Yeah.
head. But this was one of my first memories of dealing with you, Dan, of making contact with you after I got on the set. I had a beard, much like Sawyer smoked there, and it was. I said, well, I grew the beard for the part, and I said, it can't be. Do you remember this?
Well, I can see where it might be going, but I want to hear
Yeah,
what really happened.
I
I don't
grew
know.
the beard, and I said, no, it's not a full beard. He's a little wackier than that. So I said, well, let's shave the mustache off. So I shaved the mustache off, and I said, nah, that's not enough. So I started going like this, and then I started going like this, and I shaved off everything down the middle, and the mutton chops were like this big, and I said, it was like Fonzarelli. I went, hey. And
That
I
was
felt
great.
like,
Yeah.
man, and I came up to you and I said, what do you think, Dan? Is that okay? He goes, yeah, that's great. That's great. That's great. Because you had so many fucking things on your mind.
Well, I also, yeah, but
I was
great.
new to this
It
stuff.
was great. It was great. Well, I was too. I just didn't want anybody to know it.
Well,
No,
Dan,
I had been as a second AD and trainee AD. I had worked on several features and some big ones like
didn't you
E.T.
work with Steven Spielberg?
Yeah, I was a second AD on E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
There you
And
go.
and I worked for Coppola on One from the Heart. And so I'd been, in fact, I'd worked on E.T. and of course, Carlo Rambaldi did E.T. So I come to this show and Dino says Carlo Rambaldi, whom I knew, I had just been dealing with him about E.T. But the funny thing with that was, Carlo had a lot of money to make E.T., although E.T. was done for very little money. But Dino
Really?
spent nothing on, yeah, it was a low budget. It was Steven's attempt to make a small film to show that he could be responsible because he had just made
Jaws?
did he
Close
do
Encounters.
no, those were big hits, but
Oh,
he had made a movie
1941.
1941 that like they threw him in the same boat as like John Landis with the Blues Brothers and all these young directors who were just irresponsible. So he was going to try, this was going to be his little movie E.T. where he spent virtually no money and it became E.T. Um,
Gracious.
but Dino, I mean the story with Dino was Dino did co-financing with Paramount. And what happened, the way I understood it, and I don't know for a fact, so I don't want to libel him, but God rest his soul, and I loved him, and he gave me my big break. But he had creative ways of financing, and he'd got Paramount to say, you take the US rights, I'll take the foreign rights. So we'll each pay half of the show. And so it's a $10 million budget. So Paramount, you pay 5 million and I'll put in 5 million. I think that he made the movie for 5 million that Paramount gave him.
Sounds like a Dino move.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. I didn't see books ever, but it's like we had no money to do anything. And he gave Carlo.
Well, they gave
no,
me 500,000 to play.
There you go. But that's
yeah.
where it went. Okay. And
no, they
and,
didn't.
and so we were waiting for this design of a werewolf, and Carlo was like, I guess he owed something to Dino, but he couldn't, as they say, make chicken salad out of chicken shit, and he couldn't do anything, and he had not enough money. And so when the werewolf outfit finally came, everybody was really disappointed because we all thought it looked like a guy in a bear suit. He said, Jesus, what are we going to do with this? And to the point that, yeah. So it was really done, and so my plan became, let's not see it very much. And then we picked our point, which is a good plan anyway for
It
horror.
was shot.
And
Brilliant.
yeah, and then we had to be ingenious, like Bill pointed out. And I appreciate, we had to be clever on how we could show some cool effects that all of them were practical. Like the end, particularly the death of the werewolf was a series of dissolves, which you don't see anymore, but I think it's really cool. So,
Very cool.
Everett got shot when he was wearing the full bear mask, and he, falls against the thing and he collapses, and we froze the frame and drew lines around him. Okay, now go get makeup. And we did, I think, 4 or 5 different iterations of less and less hair. And we just kept putting him in that same position so that it's all a series of dissolves, which is how I think the Lon Chaney things were done in the 30s and all that.
Right.
Yeah, so that was kind of fun.
Well, I just want to say that I disagree with. I love the way the werewolf looked. I think that's one of the
Good.
best looking werewolves in any werewolf movie. It's based in reality, and that's what I love about it. So
Good to
Well
hear.
put.
Yeah,
And that
good.
sequence, I have to say, that was my very first jump scare when I finally saw Silver Bullet. Like
Yeah.
that ending sequence when he pops up there at the end, that was the very
Right.
first jump
Right.
scare I'd ever
Right.
experienced in my movie going life.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have fond memories of that scene.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
so it is true then that when you started production, you didn't have the werewolf outfit
That's
yet.
probably right. I mean, I don't recall specifically that, but I know it was way down to the wire to the point that I was approached about could we delay production? Could we figure out some insurable way to like get the insurance to pay if we delayed? And they just that wasn't possible. So
Yeah,
we did have to go, and we just at some point said, well, let's just do it. And so
yeah,
we did, and I know, like I say, we didn't shoot the werewolf until, you know, deep into the production.
Hmm.
Not deep into it, but significantly into the production. The
this
other thing
this
that was a challenge for me was to do the rocket and the eye sequence until
oh
I
yeah.
figured out the only way we could do it was kind of a whip pan. For a while, we were thinking we have a wire that goes into the eye, and you know, but the what we did is if you join together two whip pans, you never know what's in the middle. If you start something and you whip, so that when he fires the thing and you whip the camera, you don't have to land on the right thing. And then if you have the thing already planted in his eye and then whip to him, you can join
Mhm.
it together and you have the effect of, oh my God, I'm following the rocket right into his eye.
Mm,
So that
mm.
was one of the, clever kind of cheapo ways of handling something that was had to feel visceral, but
Well,
we
young
didn't really.
film directors out there are going to appreciate that little tip.
Right.
Yeah, so
Absolutely. You know, what talking about this with the werewolf and the practical effects, it's reminding me, this summer was the 50th anniversary of Jaws,
yeah,
and there was a documentary that I think National Geographic put out where Spielberg was talking about how the shark wasn't working. There were a
yes,
lot of things they had planned, so he had to get creative. And I think it's similar to what you've described in that, okay, we don't have the suit yet, or maybe it's not exactly what we had envisioned, but it's still so incredibly suspenseful, so that by the end, and I agree with Dale here, when you finally do see the werewolf, to me it was such a different take on a werewolf design that it worked. It just
well,
felt,
I gotta say to Dale too, it's like, in the years that have passed, I went many, many years I didn't see the film. Then about 2 years ago, I was invited to San Diego. It amazes, we should get into this, I guess, too. It's amazing to me the legacy this film has, because what films that are 40 years old does anybody still? Because when it came out, it wasn't, it did okay, but it wasn't, it didn't get great reviews. A lot of people didn't get the humor that I intended for it. Because I really wanted to make a kid's adventure. I really wanted a PG-13 rating because I thought, let's just make this about this kid and this uncle and this thing and this theme I've shared with you guys. That's a family theme, and it's like it's hard edged, but you know, and Dino kept saying, no, this is Stephen King. It's hard R. We need hard R. And he made me reshoot stuff to have more gore and more.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like the when the woman is killed, I think it's the first killing,
Oh,
the
yeah,
werewolf climbs the
that was
thing.
gruesome.
And it's like I had shot it one way, and she said, "No, we come back and shit. I want claws, and we get and he had the idea. We get a piece of steak, and we put latex on it. We see this claw straight. It's like I'm thinking, like, God, I don't want an R. And
Yeah.
he made me reshoot the killing of Jim Baffico, the guy in the greenhouse. And that's the actor's name, not the character.
Yeah.
And
Milt.
he just wanted this. He said it has to be an R, and I was feeling therefore. So when I watched it, I think the early reviewers kind of felt this. It just felt a little schizophrenic because it's like on the one hand you're having these really, you know, scenes of gratuitous violence and just, on the other hand, you got this kid's kind of adventure in this whole thing. And, but now it's kind of, it works and I look at it and I feel the same way about the werewolf. It's true. I went back to a screening 2 years ago. They were doing a festival in San Diego and this cult following around it. And it was really fun. I watched it. Boy, it really works, and the werewolf looks great. So you're stuck in your perceptions it's a little bit. So
you could always recut it now and have a director's cut.
well, yeah, I guess I could. But I will say, and Bill, I wonder what you find about this. It didn't happen right away. I mean, the film came out in 85, and I started doing a lot of TV work around, 89, 88, 89, and then that's became my career, which I've really enjoyed. But along about, I don't know, starting about 10 years later, I'd show up at jobs and someone would say, "You did Silver Bullet." And it's like, what? It's like, who can, and now everywhere I go, there's always somebody who says it. And, it's like, it really does have a long, witness this podcast that I do think it has something to do with what you guys were saying is that, it is about something. And that's one of the things, I feel about directing. And I mentioned in this book I wrote about directing television is that, the job of the director is to really define the story, and people don't understand that. They think it's just what happens. This is, oh yeah, it's not. It's what you're saying is really at issue. What's at stake? What's going on in the lives of the characters? How are events affecting them? And who are they? And what are their psychological needs? All that stuff enables you to really inject meaning, something you can care about. And that's what I really felt more so in Silver Bullet than so many other projects, because it's really a universal theme. I mean, it really is about dealing with disappointment and bitterness about not, about being wounded, about having something happen to you that's like unfair, and what's the most healthy way and is a good life possible. And so I don't know if
That's
that
true.
really is what
I rewatched Magnolia again, and that's exactly what that movie's about. Is everybody is in pain. Everybody is regretful, and they're angry, and they can't connect with anything anymore. And it's just it was so brilliant, But anyway, it's reminiscent of that, because you watch it and you go, God, what am I watching? All these people are crazy, or sex starved, or some can't find their way, or whatever. Jason Robards has got regrets about his son, and then his son turns out to be Tom Cruise, who's doing these wacky things about manhood, and it's great, it's crazy, but it all comes together in a wonderful message about.
Well, there really has to
pain.
be some. Yeah, the director has to really hold the vision of it, and then if that director, he or she, can convey it to actors and cinematographers and production designers, and they can bring all of their expertise. I mean, I always marvel at actors' abilities. If they understand the story they're in, they can bring all kinds of things to it. If they don't, they're just doing a general kind of, or trying
That's
to
right.
just find something that makes sense to them. But if there's no overriding vision holding it together, or someone saying that works to promote this, that doesn't. It's legitimate. It's understandable. You might make that choice, but that's not the moment of the story. So let me point you to the moment of the story. And
Right.
that's when you get really, something really
I conjured up every
happening.
bully I ever knew, and I was bullied a little bit. I went to 3 different high schools. I was always a new kid, and even though I was big, I played football, wrestle, all that stuff, but I was always looking for somebody to be, and I was vulnerable. And the bully always finds that vulnerable spot, and I wanted to present him as somebody that was just interested in violence, and getting this guy, and that whole vigilante mentality,
Well, just listening to you say that, Bill, makes me see that you were connecting to the theme of the show, because you created a character who had a wound,
oh yeah.
who was covering it up with bullying behavior. And
That's
if it
why I
did,
love that's
yeah,
why I love Andy's ending when he drops his gun and runs away like the fucking coward he is.
well, you know,
great.
and that's why you're helping me see why that works so well in the context of the picture,
Yeah,
and why it just felt right to me watching and all that, because so much of it is like you don't necessarily know, this just feels right. I don't know why, but it just
yeah,
feels right. And it's like, because you were in the world of Silver Bullet, you were in the world of people not knowing how to deal with wounds, doing their best, and some people making better choices than others.
that's right.
But some people not facing it, and some people, the heroes, finally facing it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that I'm glad to hear you say that. That's what you connected to. I think you were
Oh boy, did I ever?
totally,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and
I thought
I
the
definitely
script was
think that,
great.
yeah, and your performance, Bill, was definitely, I think a lesser actor could have really just made it the stereotypical kind of
Yeah,
braggart who's wanting to incite violence, but you gave it such complexity and nuance that that moment when he does turn tail and run, it's like there, to me it was something very humanizing about it. It's like, well, yeah, you can talk a big game, but when you're faced with what's in those woods, I mean, it really,
right.
it
well,
really is a
and
sort
it
of testament.
also, yeah, and it also provided an important foil for the sheriff, for
Yeah,
Terry
Mm.
O'Quinn's character, who was a very human guy,
yeah.
and had an
He was
unfortunate
great in that role.
ending. But you presented like that situation. I think everybody could see, boy, it's hard for this guy to hold it in the face of that kind of, you
Right.
know,
And his
just
deputy, the guy, I don't know if
yeah.
he was a local hire, but he was
He
such
was
a
local.
sweetie.
He
He was
was
such a
local.
sweetheart.
Yeah,
What?
yeah, he was local. Yeah,
Oh, was he? He
yeah.
was great. I
And
mean,
who went on to do pretty really well was Leon Russum, who played
I
Robin's
knew Leon
husband.
in New York. Yeah,
Yeah, and he's had a lot of really big roles since then. I mean,
that's right.
yeah. So
Good actor.
good
Robin
good act.
Probst, good actor.
Yeah,
You hired the right people, and that's part of the whole job.
yeah,
Casting
yeah,
is kind of what it's all about. Once a director gets the cast, he feels emboldened and feels strengthened
yeah.
by what he's got to work with. So it's great. I'm so glad to hear you talk about this film.
It's fun. It's really fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's fun for us. We
Oh,
love
good.
Yeah.
listening to you guys talk about this. It's I
The
mean, we
last time I
obviously,
saw you was, I think, on the set of The Practice when I was
I was
playing
trying to
D.A. Walsh.
remember. Yeah,
You were doing an episode, and I stopped by to say hello, and
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
wasn't an episode I was in.
That was only 30 years ago, right? Something like
Yeah, right. But if you're
that.
still working, I am too, and I'm not working
I
right now,
am.
Dan.
Yeah,
So
I am. I'm gonna keep this in mind, Bill.
please
That'd be
do.
great.
And
Yeah.
I've done comedy as well. I did a pilot with Rita Moreno and Steven Weber
Wow.
and
Good cast.
Minnie Driver, and I tell you, we thought it was really good, and I couldn't. I mean, I was so delighted to work with Rita and Steven Weber. It's funny.
Yeah.
I told him about 2 years before we did the pilot. I said, I'm old enough to be your dad. We ought to be
Oh,
dad and father and
I know the feeling, Bill. Believe me, I know the feeling.
son.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Minnie Driver's great too. Yeah,
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 she was
yeah.
great, but and she wasn't happy with the script. It was a little. I kind of wasn't happy with it either, and because it was so old fashioned. It was so old formula, and
Yeah.
I anyway, I won't go on about it, but
Well,
uh,
how many seasons did you have on Life Goes On? That was a great series for you.
four. I had
Yeah.
four
Yeah, that
seasons.
was a
Yeah,
big show. That
great
was
show.
yeah.
yeah,
Great.
that
Yeah,
was
it was
my
a
most
really good show.
gratifying role of my
Yeah.
career. I
Yeah.
was a special education minor in college, and
Way ahead of its time too.
I
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
Very much.
I
Yeah.
I love that script so much, and I was doing an off-Broadway play at the time with Caroline Aaron called Frankie and Johnny and the Claire de Lune, and
Wow.
they gave me this script, and I went, my God, I gotta get this, and I worked so hard on it,
Great.
and
Great.
they flew in from New York, I mean from L.A. into New York, and both Patty and I met on a sound stage of a soap opera, and we did a couple of scenes together, and then I did a couple of scenes by myself and with the director as Corky. I treated him like my son, and it was I love the show. I love Chris. Chris is still fine and doing well. He's like
Good.
57 years old now, or 58 years old, and it's a wonderful family. They're, the
Yeah.
Burks. They are just a special group, and I had the letters that I got from the siblings of those Down syndrome children were the most wonderful letters, because they would say things like, "I never knew that my brother or sister were capable of this."
Wow.
And
Mm.
it was a mind expanding experience for many people, especially the siblings.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
Yeah.
unconditional love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic show.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
thank you.
have fond memories of watching that with my family.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
great,
Thank
great
you.
show.
I always know when somebody says that to me, they're good people.
Oh, so I want to be sensitive to time, and I appreciate you for being both of you for being so generous. There were a couple of questions that I wanted to ask you all that focus on Silver Bullet, and then I wanted to give you both some time if you want to share or promote or plug anything that's going on for you. But before we get there to that, the questions that I had, so this one is for you, Dan, and it has to kind of going back to Silver Bullet for a minute. In the making of that movie, were there any choices that you made as a director that in your mind you were making a nod to another movie or kind of a throwback to another movie? Or were there things in there that you would say, this was a little bit of an Easter egg, or this was something that I kind of put in there to reference something that maybe the audience didn't pick up on at first, or things that you just kind of put in there just to see if anybody would notice?
Yeah, I'm not really, I think offhand I'd say no, and I'm not one who looks for that kind of thing, because I always kind of treat a film I want it to work on its own merit and not have a kind of wink wink. It's really about something else. There aren't I a film scholar, and I know how, but I did work on a Stephen King series, Castle Rock, which had tons of Easter eggs.
Yeah.
But in this one, no, the two things that just come to mind I'll mention are the one moment you said was your first scare when Everett kind of, it's like
Yeah.
that was I knew I wanted that. I was a little worried it was gonna be, I had to work hard to figure out how can I make it not predictable, because it's been in other movies. I mean, the one I remember, and you guys are probably too young to remember, I bet Bill does, but there was an incredible movie called Wait Until Dark,
Oh
where
yeah.
One of my, that's a
Audrey,
classic.
yeah, Audrey,
Audrey.
You
Mhm.
got
that
it.
was my moment, like you just described. This was for you when Audrey Hepburn finally kills Alan Arkin,
Mhm.
and you think the movie's over, and then he just leaps out of the frame. It's
That's
Yeah.
like,
right.
and I think so. I think that affected my wanting a moment like that. But I wasn't
Yeah.
like trying to say, and they're gonna remember Wait Until Dark. But I was affected by that. The other story that I will tell, which is kind of funny, because there was a lot of stress. I felt tremendous stress a lot of the times directing this movie, because I had all the responsibility. I had, you know, and and uh and I was facing the final scene. I remember in my office in North Carolina, the final scene where the werewolf breaks in the house, where Uncle Red is up at night and they go to sleep and the one silver bullet and the whole thing. And I was trying to think, how can I because it wasn't really scripted. How does the werewolf crash into the house?
Mhm.
And we had our set designed, and Busey was against the outer wall to the front, and there were two windows. And I had a very scary moment that it worked really, really well. It was like, I think one of the first times we really saw, well, no, we had seen the werewolf's face before, but when Janie sees the werewolf and nobody else does,
Yeah, right.
right? And that camera move just really worked well, where just a
Yeah.
little piece, and oh my God, and then Busey goes and looks again and comes back. And I had to figure out, so where is the werewolf going to come in from? It's like, and then there were the interior hallways that are on the side of the two kids, and I didn't know how to do it. And I was thinking, well, I assumed he'd crash in the window, one of the windows, but that just didn't seem sufficient. And
Mhm.
I remember being just alone in my office feeling, God, I don't know if this thing is working at all, this movie. I mean, it's like Dino is, is constantly trying to save money and this, all these things. And I just found myself asking, what would Spielberg do? I just asked myself that question.
Right.
And because it's funny, when you train as an assistant director, you would think differently. One of the real hard things about moving to
Mm.
director is you're asked to dream as a director. As an AD, you're asked to save money and figure out efficiencies and all that. And oh my God, a crane, we can't have a crane. That's a lot of money. It's like, can I do it another way? Whereas directors, yeah, let's start with a big wide shot, of aerial. It's like now they have drones, so that's even not so big a deal. But I remember being in my office and I was thinking, can I ask that? Can I can't, but it's not going to be dramatic. And I just asked myself, how would Spielberg do this? And the voice just came, well, I said, well, he doesn't just crash through the fucking wall. And I just said, oh, okay, well, okay, I'll do that. And I said, that makes no sense. How could anything crash through? I said, that's what he would do. And I thought,
Yeah.
okay, so now I had a way to stage it. I thought I'll get Busey between the two windows, which is you think the only way he can come in, and he'll come in through the wall. And, I thought of it, but I don't think I would have thought of it if I hadn't put myself in this imaginary role
Mm.
of, how would someone else say no? What if I were this person? How would I? And that's what I think of when you ask that
Yeah.
question.
And
Yeah,
I think it winds up, it's such a great moment because yeah, the audience is thinking it's coming through one of the windows. And so when it's the wall, it really does catch you by
right,
surprise. So
right. And
yeah.
then of course, and then you take the imaginative leap of, oh my God, this is such a bad, ferocious creature. It can do anything. It can come through a
Right.
wall. It's like it makes the danger ratcheted up.
It
It's like
is.
it's so unpredictable. Its powers are, unearthly. So there you go.
That
Yeah.
brings
So
up
what?
another question real quick I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
So doing locations there, we visited the church that you guys shot
Yeah.
the exterior portion of the movie at. And we talked to some of the locals that were present during filming. They
Wow.
mentioned that the house across the street from the church was actually used in the movie. And we weren't sure if that was true or not. And maybe you could give us some insight.
Did they say what scene it was used for or what character?
They didn't. They couldn't remember anything, but they
I'm
did.
thinking of now, are you talking about the church where Terry O'Quinn is killed? Like
Yes.
you mean where the
Yes.
minister lives in the back of
Yes.
it?
Yes. There was a house directly across the street from that they said that you guys actually filmed a scene in. And
Filmed what scene it?
I
they
think
didn't
Terry,
she's.
say.
well,
I think.
we did not film. I can tell you that we built the garage in the back of the church because I had to tie in geographically. Because that was one of the first shots that came to me when I was in prep, is how we're going to see that it's the minister, right? And because hopefully there was a total misdirect the whole time. I really wanted Everett to just seem like the most decent, wonderful guy in the whole movie up until then. And she's going around to all these places and these moments, and I shot, as stylized as I could make it, like weird shots, like some characters showing up, moving in front of a door, and then revealing I guess it was the right eye that was the one that it went in, and all these characters, and finally she just gives up. Okay, the hell with it. And so I just knew the way I was going to reveal him was she's going to just be fed up. She's wheeling this cart. She's, oh, Marty, he's just a booger. He's just, I was stupid to believe him. I can't believe it. Hi, Reverend. What am I going to do with the bottles? Hi, Janie. And I shot him in profile so you didn't see his eye. And then I just wanted to track with her wheeling the cart down. You think it's about her. You think it's about her saying, okay, now I'm going to go back to the way it is. And just as the shot ends, like with full frontal, as you know, the shot of the Reverend with you see the passion, you see, oh my God, she was right, and that's it. And she doesn't know it's him. So I had to continue her. And so we built the garage um, as an extension on the other side of that church. I mean, as it continues, so that we could tie in her going to that place and then getting trapped there. So I don't think it was that. Um, And it very well might have been some other scene, but I don't remember it. And I want to just say parenthetically, I think a really interesting thing is this movie was filmed in 1984, and I can't imagine us getting any church now to let us do a werewolf, everybody becoming a werewolf in the congregation. Like we did in this. I mean, that was quite a sequence too. That was where we spent up most of our money probably on special effects, is we had probably 15 different extras and actors, with the prosthetics that would be actually move, and we'd see noses growing and all kinds of ears growing and all that kind of thing. And a stained glass window breaking and air coming through. So um, I don't know if you could ever film a practical church nowadays with that kind of sequence.
Yeah, I
So
had a
where was
similar
that
thought.
final scene filmed? The one where the werewolf comes crashing through the wall. Where was that? Was that at the
Oh,
studio?
that was on a soundstage. That was on the
No.
soundstage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, no. I mean, if it were, I mean, that to make a real wall capable of breaking
Right.
in, it was just a little plywood. It was not a big deal,
Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, your comment about the church. So last year, Garrett and I got to see a screening of Silver Bullet in Raleigh, and so it's for both of us. It was the first time seeing it on the big screen. I
Mm.
grew up seeing it on home video and cable, and I
HBO.
remember thinking, watching that scene, it's like there's no way that they would be able to
Right,
do this in a church
right,
these
right,
days.
right,
You know.
right. What were some of the other
Uh,
questions people were wondering about? I'm
Yeah,
happy
I
to
wanted to
stick
give
around.
give the guys. I know Dale, you had your question. I wanted to make sure if Sawyer or Craig had any questions that they wanted to ask. I think I've covered all of the questions that I had and that had been shared with me.
I have one more whenever you guys saw
Go
your.
ahead, Dale. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
go
Dale.
for it.
So another question that I had was there any, did you guys ever toy around with explaining how Lo became a werewolf?
No, that was never in the story, and I didn't feel a need for it. And so I guess I think what I did was my explanation, myself working with what the story was really about kind of explains it, because
Mm,
it's like I put like his his taking this strict, you know, uh, Puritan, uh, religiosity that he had to apply to himself. He had to be perfect. He couldn't have sexual feeling. I mean, I imagined all that stuff.
mhm.
He was totally repressed and trying to be something other than what he was. And that to me fed into the theme I was wanting to explore. Well, if you're like that, if you're not accepting that you have sexual, drive or something like that, you're going to become a monster.
Yeah.
So that was kind of it. Just to me, it answered. We know how he became it. Oh, of course, because he's can't admit that he lives by himself. He's celibate. He's all this stuff. So it's like it wasn't a choice that he came to. It was a choice he was driven to by self and by repression. That's kind of how I did it. So
Yeah.
I felt that question was answered by me in terms of motivation for the actors. So yeah,
Well,
yeah,
that will do it.
yeah, yeah.
Anything else?
Any other
Sawyer.
questions?
Sawyer.
Yeah, I had one. We kind of touched on it earlier when you were talking about how Dino wanted to add violence to the movie.
Yeah,
Reshooting certain things to add gore and stuff like that.
yeah.
Um, I've never really seen any deleted scenes from the film. Is there any deleted scenes that you wish could have made the final
Ah,
cut?
Good question.
Great question.
I can't think of any actually.
I
Maybe there are, but I
there's
can't remember.
rumors that the wolf actually spoke in like one of the first
Yeah.
scripts, and you guys
No,
cut it.
in maybe one of the early scripts, there was another script and another director involved before I got on, which I didn't even know about for years. And then
Oh, I didn't know
I was
that.
reading something, oh, somebody else was actually hired to do it. So I don't know, maybe there was, and maybe the calendar had speaking. I don't know, did it? I don't recall.
Maybe.
I don't
It
Yeah.
was
recall.
it was in the screenplay in there's a book on the silver, like a novel of it, and there's a screenplay inside the book, and inside that screenplay, it has the werewolf saying lines in the book. It even sings the Rheingold
Yeah.
song at one point.
Oh wow.
Right.
Yeah. That was a fun sequence. The Rheingold, James Gannon, that was really fun. He
Oh,
was a great actor, and I had seen him in the LA stage a lot doing Sam Shepard plays, and he
yes.
was really a kick. He wound up asking me for the head. We had to create his head that was sitting on the tracks. So he wanted to keep that prop, and I think he did.
Yeah.
That's funny you say that because it popped up online for sale
Really?
10 or 12 years ago.
Yeah, that was probably around the
Kidding.
time he died. Yeah.
Okay, I'm curious who ended up with the Peacemaker, or was that like actually broken half? Because like I made my own Peacemaker. Maybe I should do it this
That's
way.
a
There we
good
go.
one. Wow.
Yeah.
You that
Hold on,
was
this way.
pretty
Sorry,
damn
this way. There we
good.
go.
yeah.
There we go.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did my own,
Wow.
which and Chris designed. I'm wearing the. Hold on a second to show you. So Chris designed this T-shirt. He designed.
Oh, that's
You can-
awesome.
That
you can-
is.
there we go.
Bill, I
great.
hope you're not getting chills. Bill, I
Yeah,
know
there
you
you
must have
go.
been
Yeah,
frightened
sorry,
when,
Bill.
when Lawrence Turney threatened you with that. I know that must have been traumatic for you. I hope
Get the
that's
drinking, boys.
not PTSD there.
Did I mute myself or did you guys mute me?
No, you're no, you're
No,
We can
talking.
hear you.
We're
I
hearing
think we
you.
can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, now you
muted.
Now,
Now
now
I'm
you're
muted.
muted, Bill. Now you're muted.
Muted.
There
Okay.
you go.
Now you're
Now you're
muted.
good.
Yeah,
I
now
don't
we hear
know,
you.
man. I got the same problem with technology as Robin, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Lawrence. He was on Crime Story as well, Lawrence.
Yeah.
He has a checkered history. I don't even know.
Oh
I
my
mean, he was
God,
like,
does he
well,
ever?
I mean, that was another example. That's another example of putting him in this little town with all these kind of Southern good old boys. Like, what? What's the common? How does that happen? These guys, these two types, it's
He
like,
pulled off a lot of stuff on film.
yeah, yeah,
He really
yeah,
did.
yeah,
But off camera and on the street, he pulled off a lot
yeah.
of stuff as well.
Wasn't he in Sam Fuller movies or what was he in? I don't know. A lot of old
Yeah, he was
time.
in Sam Fuller movies. He
Yeah,
also was in jail and he
yeah,
battery and assault, and
yeah,
he'd get in a fight at the drop of a hat.
yeah.
Uh,
Mm.
and he was, but I never found him to be disagreeable.
No, he was great to work with. Yeah,
Boys like this, you know.
yeah,
Yeah, I tell
yeah,
you, when I was in New York, man,
yeah,
I'm telling
yeah.
you,
You believe him running a Southern bar, right? Oh no, it's a New England bar. It's just
right.
only Southern people are in it. But yeah, okay.
Well, he just summered there,
Yeah, yeah,
or wintered there, I should say.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Not really a question, but I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Corey Haim and
Yeah.
how was he on set? I know he was just starting out.
Corey, I just loved. And it's like, that was the hardest part to cast, Corey and Jane,
Good
because
kid.
it's like that was the heart of the movie. We auditioned a ton of people, and the casting folks brought my attention to and Dino's too. I think it was called Firstborn. That was a movie he was in, and he was
Hmm.
so just a real kid, and I just loved him, and I was so sad, kind of what happened in the rest of his life. I think, I never really talked to him much. I think he was embarrassed by the movie. I don't know, maybe when it came out, it just wasn't received very well or something, but I don't think, I don't think he wanted to associate with it that much. But directing him was great. And it was really interesting because what I loved is he just felt like a real boy. I mean, he didn't feel like an actor. Um,
Yeah.
but sometimes I remember the one thing I had to do, it's like, you never would do this with non-kid actors, but sometimes he would just be kind of blank saying stuff and you wouldn't see transitions. And I remember sometimes I had to go like when he was stuck on the bridge, or when both times on the bridge with the fireworks and the bridge when the covered bridge, it required a lot of just facial acting. And he often didn't, there was times he just, thought he was emoting, but it wasn't. So I remember sometimes I'd have to come into the makeup trailer with him and say, Corey, look at me and let's look in the mirror together. It's like, I think you got to really open your eyes wide. Let's see. And he like this, So there was some technical stuff. He was really, and he'd get it, and then he really made it his own. He was great, and he was also really game to do anything. He loved riding that silver bullet. He
Oh
loved,
yeah.
he's a strong kid. That was hard to climb down. It's like that was really a shot I really loved getting, of him climbing out the window to go do the fireworks, because it was full body. You could see that he didn't use his legs at all. He had enough upper body strength, which a kid in his situation would have developed, to make that climb down the trellis or whatever it was.
Yeah, that was impressive.
Yeah, yeah. He was really a great kid.
Yes, he
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
And he had such a
Bless
great
him.
rapport with Gary. I felt like
Gary
they were
loved him, and he loved
so
Gary.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah,
could definitely tell.
yeah,
Great chemistry between the two of them.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, this has just been fantastic. Just to be able to talk to you about this movie and to hear your thoughts and recollections about it.
Chris,
So
I got that one
yes,
question from the
yes,
fans.
please, please.
We get it, pull it up.
That's right. That's right. You did
This is a
mention it.
fan named Tom, and I think he posted on the Facebook group. So I want to pull it
Yeah.
up. Here we go. Let me hit
Yeah,
share.
thanks for that, Garrett. I completely
You're
forgot.
welcome.
Yeah,
Here we go.
that.
Evening, everybody. Tom here. First and foremost, thank you to Garrett and the Silver Bullet Facebook fan page for making this happen. You guys are awesome. All right, I'll ask the question that everybody wants to know. What happened to the bullet? Is it still out there? Was it destroyed? Does no one know? Anything you can give a Star Spoon here, all right? Also, Daniel Attias, hopefully we can catch you at a convention. But Bill, I will see you next week at Chill Theater, sir. Can't
Oh,
wait.
fantastic.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
I'm looking forward to that. For sure.
Great. So the question was, what happened to the bullet? Is that what he said?
That's what he asked. Yes.
Well, I have one of them in my drawer at home. We made, a ton of them. I mean, the scene where you see the bullet being made is where we made it. We made, because it was fun. I was like, wow, we can melt silver and we can make it and press it and out it comes. And, we probably made 25 of them. I don't know where. Some were gifts to people. They got engraved, I think, to Dino or to Martha Schumacher or some others. But I just have one, and I haven't seen it for a year or two, so I better go and look. But I don't know who else would have it. Yeah.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think he may have been referencing the actual Silver Bullet motorcycle.
Oh, that's what he's talking about. Oh my God, how could I be so stupid?
I thought he was talking about the literal bullet.
Me
Yeah,
too.
no,
I thought the same thing, but that's a great
no.
question as
Dale,
well.
No,
Dale,
Tom,
thanks
Up
for
along
Tom.
Cassidy's got the silver
Tom,
bullet.
thank you. Yeah, let me just put a shout out to the special effects guys. Last name was McCracken, I think, is the guy who built it. And I just thought it was genius. I mean, it was like, it had to just a visual. I mean, I still love watching this almost sexual shot just lingering over the shapes of and the paint was so great and everything that, it had to be special, and it was. And I have no idea what happened to it. I'm sure it went back to that shop in Van Nuys, and they may have hung on to it. They may not have. They might have broken it up for spare parts. I have no idea. Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
So,
Well, fellas, I just got to say that you asked some very astute questions, and it certainly is obvious that you are such fans of the movie, and it makes me proud, and I'm sure it makes Dan as proud, and anybody that that will be listening to this who is a part of the movie, including Robin, will be proud of all of you for doing what you're doing. And I do want to say, thanks, Tom, for mentioning the Chiller Theater thing. That'll be in the Chiller Theater Expo in Parsippany, New Jersey, October 24th through the 26th. And you can find out more details online. But I look forward to seeing a lot of Silver Bullet fans and Manhunter fans and Millennium fans.
yeah.
Talk about gory. And I got some stories to tell about all of these and more. Crime Story, Nero Wolf, Air Force One, Independence Day. I didn't have big roles, but for some reason, I'd get a good line every now and then, and people would remember it, like "You couldn't catch a cold," I love that, and
Joe
Manhunter
Haller.
was,
Joe
You're
Haller.
so sly, but so am I. You know, it's just,
There are so many great lines in that movie.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. It's
Really
true.
are.
And I look forward to seeing anybody in Parsippany during those times. And there's a lot of wonderful people there, including James Tolkien, who he and I did Nero Wolf together with Timothy Hutton and Maury Chaykin, God rest his soul. And we had an awfully good time in doing that as well. But I won't go on anymore. But thank you very much, fellas, for your questions and your enthusiasm. It's greatly appreciated, especially 40 years later. It's absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah, and let me
You guys do a lot to us.
thank you guys for doing the podcast. And if I can call it this Silver Bullet Nation, thank you very much. It's like it's very
There you go.
gratifying to all of us connected to the movie that it's still popular. I cut my teeth as a director on it. It remains one of my really seminal experiences. And I'm still working. I made a career in basically series television directing, and I'm off in a couple of weeks to go do an episode of Dune Prophecy, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
in the Dune universe, and
Yeah.
that's far more sophisticated effects than Silver Bullet ever
Any of the
dreamed
old
of.
guys on that show? Wait a minute.
I'll check it out. They haven't given me my script yet,
Okay.
and so that's good. And I would just say that what I love about directing and filmmaking and collaborating is what I talked about finding the story. And I did write a book about mainly my experiences directing series television. It's called Directing Great Television Inside TV's New Golden Age. And I recommend it if you want to hear more about my thoughts on that. It's kind of puts you in the seat with me and the director's chair, and what are the issues you can face and how do you approach them. And I expand a lot of the thoughts that we covered in this talk. So it's a
Can you
privilege to
repeat
be
that
here.
title one more time? I'm sorry.
It's called Directing Great Television Inside TV's New Golden Age. And I
Okay.
did the audiobook, and it's also available paperback or Kindle, whatever.
All right.
So yeah.
All right.
You
Oh,
have directed great television.
absolutely. He sure has. Well,
Thank you.
gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. This has been just a phenomenal interview, and we just have really enjoyed spending time with you tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very
You're
much.
welcome.
Okay.